Hey, how you guys doing? It's Wrestling Figure Forum. Jason here with Sessel.
How you doing?
And we're going to talk some wrestling here for the next 40 to 50 minutes maybe. A little rundown of the week that was. I know SmackDown is still kind of going on for a lot of you people out there. So we're not really going to go into SmackDown. No spoilers there for you guys. But we will talk about everything else that's happened. There was an Impact pay-per-view.
Yes.
And there was an AEW pay-per-view in the last couple of weeks. And some indie scene stuff going on, and that's what we'll start with first. Why don't you go on ahead, and why don't you discuss the ROH with some people? And I will be right back.
No problem. We're going to talk real quickly about Ring of Honor. They are continually just doing 2 matches for their shows right now. The very first match that they had, it was going to be a pure tournament match style against two guys who are in the Ring of Honor's dojo, Brian Johnson, who's been learning under PJ Black, and then Dak Draper, who was a winner of their tournament just last year. The Mile High Magnum, which is what Dak Draper calls himself, great athlete, 6'5", amateur background. He's got a lot of talent. Was considered a big prodigy for Ring of Honor, where Brian Johnson was one of those kind of guys who it was, you've got to do this, you got to do that to try and be something. The match started off with Brian Johnson firing off the one single shot, close fist to it, and he started gaining a bit of an advantage, but as Dak Draper does, he gets that advantage, comes back in a very short amount of time, probably about like a 10-minute match. He ended up with defeating Brian Johnson with the Mile High Magnum move that he calls, which is similar to Wade Barrett's old Wasteland maneuver, which was the Fireman's Carry forward slam.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, I like that one a
lot. The second match actually had somebody that's one of your favorite guys in Ring of Honor, Dalton Castle.
Yeah, I like Dalton Castle. He doesn't have the boys though anymore, huh?
No, they went on. I'm guessing they're maybe doing indie stuff. I believe they were maybe even given a tryout by WWE.
Mm-hmm.
But it was Dalton Castle against Brody King, who was a member of Marty Scurll's Villain Enterprises.
Yeah. Now, Villain Enterprises, are they still all together as a group?
I think right now that little faction is sort of in a hovering pattern because Marty Scurll really isn't doing anything right now because of the Speak Out movement that happened over the last few months, especially with a lot of British wrestlers that happened with. PCO hasn't really been doing anything of late, but occasionally you would see Flip Gordon on New Japan's American show Strong, where he's last time I saw him, he had a really good match against Switchblade Jay White, who's a member of the Bullet Club over in New Japan.
Mm-hmm.
But Brody King has also been doing some stuff on Strong, but he is also contracted to Ring of Honor. The match that the Dalton Castle and Brody King had was a very good match because it is the technique and style of Dalton Castle, who is a very good technical wrestler. But Brody King was trained in the lucha style before he got much bigger size on him in his girth.
Yeah.
And his really amazing thing about Brody King that really has always impressed me about him is his lucha abilities and the things that he can do in that ring.
Mm-hmm.
So it was Brody King's strength against Dalton Castle's agility and savviness. It was a great back and forth. They each hit serious moves. Dalton Castle always trying to do the takedowns, try and neutralize Brody King's strength and size. Brody King using some of his lucha skills and abilities. Also, his power, hard-hittingness, because he's a striker as well. The match was really well done. Multiple high spots, proving that how great an athlete both of these guys are. And but in the end, it was Brody King hitting his maneuver, which is similar to Chuck Taylor's move, the Awful Waffle.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
I calls it the Gonzo Bomb.
Wonder why Chuck Taylor doesn't have a move called the All-Star. because the shoes.
Yeah, people have. I've heard people talk
The
about
Converse. No,
I've heard
kidding.
people talk about that
Yeah,
kind of
sure.
stuff and all that. But it was a really good match with Brody King coming on top over your guy, Peacock, Dalton Castle.
Oh, cool.
So we could talk about Impact next, since they had their
Anything in New
Tuesday.
Japan?
Right now, just like I said last week, New Japan's going to be doing their Best of Super J tournament, and then they're going to be doing their J Cup tournament.
Right, J Cup's coming
for guys who are not actually any members of New Japan. There is one guy, El Fantasmo, like I said last week, but you'll also see Chris Bay and TJP, who is from Impact.
Yeah, TJP.
And a few other guys from other promotions or indie ones and all that stuff. But those ones, one of them should be starting just later this month and going into December around the 12th, which would be the end of that. But the 11th is when the other tournament with the more independent guys will be taking place. So.
All right, cool. So about Impact, let's talk about Tuesday's Impact there.
Well, Tuesday's Impact.
I missed the first hour, so go on ahead and lead in with that one.
Well, in the first hour, we got to see a women's tag match because, of course, I believe next Tuesday is going to be the starting of the women's tag team division again, tournament for the titles that they're bringing back that have been gone for, I believe, 3 years or more. So we saw...
Do you remember who had the belts last?
Yes. Funny enough, the last actual holders of the women's knockout tag titles was ODB and her husband, Eric Young.
That's right. Who did they beat?
Wow.
Did they beat the Beautiful People?
I don't recall if it was the Beautiful People.
It probably wasn't. That's just really the only team I can think of that was a girl team back when they had the belts.
Well, back in the time, they did have a Latin tag team of Rosita, which everybody, if they know their history, it was actually Zelina Vega and Sarah. Was it Sarah? She was just in the news recently for I think it was a DUI. Serena something like that.
Oh well, but we don't need to know.
Yeah, but we had Tennille Dashwood and Madison Rain, who she chose as a partner, going against a longtime tag team of Nevaeh and Jessica Havoc. It started with Madison Rain and Nevaeh going back and forth, trying to go move for move, counter for counter. Later on, Tennille Dashwood did come in. When she did, unfortunately for her, so did Jessica Havoc. So she had to deal with the size and power of Jessica Havoc, former champion in that company as a singles. This match, I think it lasted probably about 10, 12 minutes, a good amount of time for the ladies to show what they could do. But in the end, Havoc tombstoned Madison Rain, and it was 1, 2, 3, and Tennille Dashwood didn't seem very happy that Madison Rain lost and decided to go find herself a new partner. Later on, you find out she had to sort of beg Jordan Grace to be her tag team partner for the tournament that's coming up. But that was the very first thing that we had on the slate for Impact. The second match was actually TJP getting his last chance at the X Division against Rohit Raju. The stipulation was that if he couldn't win the title from him, he could not go for that belt again as long as Rohit was the champion.
Yeah, it just seems like Rohit's just in that position to where he's going to squeak out. And he's going to kind of go through everybody until like a new maybe opponent comes in. Just, you know what I mean? Usually how this works is like they kind of go through the division, they squeak out the win, they cheat, they get by the underhandedness. And then some new guy comes in out of the blue and just actually happened on NXT. We'll get to that later.
Okay, yeah. It was a really good match. I mean, both of these guys, they know what they're doing in that ring. TJP, everybody knows him from his first stint in Impact to his time in the Cruiserweight division for the WWE and his return and all points in between. Again, both of these guys showed what they could do in the ring, whether it be counters, moves off on the top rope, springboards, inside, outside. They went back and forth. It was a typical X Division type match, something that would make anybody enjoy if they loved to see, guys who could counter, make moves, do high flying. It was the match for them.
Mm-hmm.
In the end, Rohit did defeat TJP to retain his title. So unfortunately for TJP, he's not going to be able to go after this one. So maybe while that stipulation is in place, maybe they'll have him and Follow Ball back into the tag team division, because unfortunately the tag division is going to lose tag team here next week.
Yeah, okay. Well, now, before we get to the Rascals, on Follow Ball, I actually like him with Crazy Steve.
Do you?
Yeah, I mean, they lost, but I like this dynamic with Steve coming out with his monkey and Bob petting the monkey, touching the monkey, if you will. I like it. You know me, I like Follow Ball. Crazy Steve, I've warmed up to a lot in the past, couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, Crazy Steve, I've said it in a past episode, I believe, that Crazy Steve is a guy I think is very unique, because I haven't seen somebody who technically has the same issue as he has since I first started watching wrestling back in the days of like the old WCCW times at the Sportatorium in Texas.
Sure.
Because if people didn't know or they've forgotten, Crazy Steve is actually legally blind. He's probably the only one that I know of right now who actually wrestles as a legally blind wrestler.
And we both know who that reminds us of.
Oh, there's
there was Stan, though. Stan Hansen.
Oh,
the
yeah.
big one.
Yeah. I mean, he was like the very first person, I believe.
Yeah, boy, it's amazing. Amazing.
I mean, yeah, every once in a while you will find somebody who has perhaps an ailment or a handicap, but
then they have those heightened senses like Daredevil. You just imagine, hey, with the Larry, I'm Daredevil.
Yeah, but like you were saying, yes, Follow Ball and Crazy Steve did have a tag team match.
Yeah, so I kind of like them together. TJP can just kind of be on his own,
Yeah.
Especially since he's gone over to Japan to participate in a tournament.
I believe the tournament is over in Japan.
Oh,
but yes.
Yeah.
But the match that Follow Ball and Crazy Steve did have was actually against Reno Scum.
Yeah, now Reno Scum, these guys have kind of come up in a big way, just like Triple X.
Yeah.
They're like
Scum,
the two new teams that are really getting pushed.
Yeah, Reno Scum did have a stint in Impact for a short while and left for some reason.
And I really don't know why these guys aren't with Sami Callihan. Sammy has that whole punk gimmick in the past, and they would just be a natural fit. That really makes me wonder why. Maybe there's something in the future with that going. But Sammy does got kin now. But anyway.
Yeah, he has his little group. It seems to be building.
Sammy's just one of those wrestlers that's always going to have a group. He's like Raven. He really reminds me of Raven. In a
way, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe a little different in some aspects, but
you know what I mean.
A similar idea. Oh yeah,
always
definitely.
he's that character that is always talking people into doing what he wants them to do.
Yeah.
For example, Ken Shamrock now. How's he talking Ken Shamrock into being a grunt for him? But he's got him.
Yeah, that is a bit of a funny little thing, how he can manipulate a guy, such as Ken Shamrock, into doing his bidding. But I think it's more of a poking the bear kind of thing, getting him riled up.
Sure.
In a way, makes it easy for him.
And he continued with Eddie Edwards there on Tuesday. Sammy did. He came out there. Clobbered him again.
Yeah, that'll
never end.
Eddie was actually having a match with the Ultimate Finesser, Chris Bay.
Right.
Which is another great X Division style type guy. Chris Bay, I know him from his time when he wrestled for the United Wrestling Network, who does one in Hollywood, does one in Memphis, and actually does one in Arizona as well. So I got to know Chris Bay.
Yeah, by Pro Shingle.
Yeah. Because Chris Bay was a guy who was trained by Scorpio Sky, believe it or not, because they were both California guys. And it was a great match, Eddie doing what Eddie does, dealing with all of Chris Bay's high-flying maneuvers and tactics. It was a bit sad to see Sami Callihan and Ken Shamrock sort of get involved in this match. And then they all ended up doing the beatdown. And then you start seeing Rich Swann come in to help Eddie, fight these guys off, 2-on-3. But even that wasn't enough. They got down on Rich Swann, put a beat down on him. And then who comes out to help Rich Swann? The Rascals. And everybody knows that the Rascals, seeing in the segment that they are getting evicted from their treehouse because they hadn't paid rent for they hadn't paid rent for 2 years apparently. But if people didn't know that next week is actually the Rascals' last contracted obligation for Impact because they didn't re-sign with them.
Mm-hmm.
So there's been a lot of talk on where the Rascals are going, but I believe in the last day or so it's been a little bit more confirmed on where them and a few other guys will be going.
So the Rascals, we got that kind of NXT confirmed, all three of them?
Pretty much. It seems from at least some sources, they say that the Rascals, along with independent wrestler Alex Zane, who has wrestled for New Japan Strong on occasion, along with Ben Carter, who a lot of you have seen his matches on AEW Dark. They're supposedly going to be, by sometime next week, going to the Performance Center. The Rascals apparently had a standing offer from the WWE to come in anytime when they were actually available. So
I hope they stay in NXT.
I just hope that they actually get used and aren't, relegated to something like 205, which only if you really search for it are you actually going to see them.
I can honestly, if they're in NXT, I can totally see right out of the gate them having a feud with Phantasmo. What's the faction?
I don't know their exact name.
But the Cruiserweight Champion and the two guys.
Yeah, his guys, Carlos Mendia, I believe, and formerly DJZ, going by...
there we go, Zion.
Joaquin something or other, I don't know. They keep changing these guys' names all the time.
It's too bad because
it's hard to follow all
because DJZ had a gimmick kind of like Ali. If he would have paired him with Ali with the lights and everything, that would have been a great team.
Yeah, it's a shame, missed opportunities when it comes to some of these guys. But, that's what happens.
Okay, so on Impact also we keep getting the continuation of Tommy Dreamer doing his investigation.
Yeah.
I thought that segment was pretty funny.
Yeah, Tommy Dreamer there with his little lie detector machine and them with their fingers on it. He had Larry D from Triple XL. He had Father Jay Mitchell, who,
with his awesome coat.
Oh, I loved that jacket. I thought it was such a sweet looking jacket. And they also had
Havoc. She followed it. Mitchell was right there. He's holding his chair for her to sit down. It was pretty
Havoc and all that. So that continued on. But Father James Mitchell did say that he probably had an idea who it might be, even though he is the suspect that would be the most likely.
It was Raven.
He wasn't him. Yeah, some people. I've seen a lot of people say that they believed it was more Hernandez, thinking that Bravo stole his money when it was actually Falaba.
It was Crimson Dynamo.
Yeah.
No, not Crimson Dynamo. Who am I thinking of? Amazing Red.
Oh, Amazing Red.
Crimson Dynamo, Amazing Red.
He hasn't been in the company in like 8 years.
Was it his brother or his cousin? Who was his cousin?
It's actually his younger brother. Is actually Crimson.
Yeah, and he was with Hernandez, right? Crimson, weren't they a tag team? For
No.
A cup of tea.
No.
It was the other guy
It was a guy who actually wrestled for NWA. They were the Veterans of Wrestling, I believe it was, the VOW for a short while. But I believe right now Crimson helps Tommy Dreamer with booking matches as like an agent or something for the House of Hardcore. I do believe. I think that's what he does right now.
So tomorrow night we got Turning Point on Impact Plus. Rich Swann, Sami Callihan.
It should be a really great match between the two. I mean, they know each other very well. They fought each other. You saw the feud like less than a year ago, them going back and forth and all that. I think it'll be a very entertaining match.
And what about the Good Brothers versus the North there? You think the Good Brothers, this is just the them putting the belts on the North, so the Good Brothers will go over a heel team to get the belts? That's what I'm thinking here.
It is a possibility. I mean, with the North, just getting it, I wouldn't expect it to be this go round, but if there's like a rematch, I could see it that way. We do know that like Ethan Page, his contract with Impact does come up at the end of the year. So, I mean, they do have like 6-7 weeks that they could play around with it.
Well, honestly, I think
Who knows?
I think that the big thing that's going to happen at turning point is going to be that one. I think Rich Swann ain't going to lose the title.
No.
I don't think that the women's championships is going to change hands.
No.
I think the whole, there's always something, major that happens on a card to get people to watch.
Right.
I think the major thing at this one, they made a real big deal about the match being for the championship on Tuesday. So
Yeah.
they were really highlighting the fact that it was a championship match. I think the Good Brothers are going to go over tomorrow night. Definitely.
Yeah, and like you said, they got the women's match, which is going to be Su Yung versus Deonna Purrazzo. Anything goes. No problem of DQs, countouts, no time limit. But Deonna Purrazzo is probably going to be on her own because if you saw during the segment when she was talking with the interviewer, you saw that Kimberly all of a sudden disappeared. Deonna went looking for her, and Su Yung seemed to take care of Kimberly and make sure that she's not going to be somebody to help Deonna Purrazzo try and get that belt back. So Deanna's going to be on her own doing that disqualification match with Su Yung, and I don't think that's going to be really a really great thing for Deonna Purrazzo tomorrow night.
Well, we'll see. It should be pretty good, though. All right, cool, man. You want to talk some AEW?
Sure, we could do some AEW.
So first off, before we get into Dynamite, what about Dark? There was a big thing that happened on Dark, a big debut. You want to talk about that?
The debut on Dark.
Devon.
Oh,
His boys.
That's correct. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the very first match that happened actually on AEW Dark was the debut of a tag team called TNT. They are actually the twin sons of Devon Dudley. He's been training him for the last few years. They are Terrell and Terrell and Tehran or something like that, I think. But they came out and they had to go up against Luther and Serpentico, which everybody knows as the Chaos Project.
Mm-hmm. I kind of like this team. One was a little luchador, and the other one kind of reminded me of in ROH, a member of the Villains.
Oh, you mean PCO?
Yeah, PCO. Thank you.
Because he's much
I wanted
older,
to say
yeah.
Pac, but it was PCO.
No, yeah. Luther is known over in Japan as the King of the Death Match.
Mm-hmm.
So with him teaming with a luchador, it is a bit of a contrast of styles.
It's a good dynamic, though.
But they do really well together. Luther likes to use Serpentico in double team moves. But something like that can, if they're not careful, can backfire on him because he's damaging his own partner. But it seems to work out. I wouldn't mind seeing some booking with these two fellas and maybe a couple other people, whether it be a couple members of the Dark group, the enhancement talent, or somebody that has been wrestling in the company who one of the matches we'll be talking here shortly.
I gotta be honest, why aren't these guys a member of the Dark Order?
True. Well,
He has a Dexter Loomis thing too. Like after he pins the guy, he's just kind of like
there's a funny little side bit about with the Dark Order, since you were talking about that. Originally, with the Dark Order, when they were first bringing them along in AEW, before the Brody Lee thing actually happened, there was a lot of talk that they were going to have Luther actually be the Exalted One and be the leader of the Dark Order, since he is the king of the death matches and stuff like that.
I can understand though they got Brody Lee last minute.
But they managed to get Brody Lee. Decided that they were going to go with a bigger, bit younger, dominant guy such as him. And I mean, it's panned out really well. But I can see the idea of like Luther, maybe even to kind of
Also,
go
too, with the Brody
bring it.
Lee thing, they were able to utilize that whole kind of Vince connection, him kind of acting like crazy.
Yeah,
like
being
Vince, the
being
rumors with
being the
Vince.
stickler and the suits and the no
All right,
coffee,
cool. I mean,
so-
so, that AEW Dark, that was really the only big thing. There was a funny segment, though, with the librarian.
Oh yes, on AEW
Because
Dark,
he's
they've
got
been.
kind of a continuing thing
Well,
on Dark.
You're talking about Pretty Peter Avalon, I'm
Yes.
assuming. Yes, Pretty Peter Avalon. It no longer goes by the librarian. He doesn't go by that.
Oh, he
anymore.
dropped the librarian.
He got
okay.
that. He dropped that, and actually is going back to a bit of a gimmick that he did back in also the United Wrestling Network that he did in Arizona and
right,
California areas. He was Pretty Peter Avalon. The funny thing is, when I first saw these segments, it made me think of an old SNL skit. If you remember, the Continental.
Oh, yes. Yes, with Christopher Walken.
Yes, Christopher Walken. He always had the young lady, and you saw the hand that was gloved and all that, and he, oh, darling and sweetheart and stuff like that. It was totally, yes.
Champagne, or whatever you
And
pronounce
they
it.
did a really good job. This last segment that you said
Yeah,
on
sure.
Dark was really funny because it looked like it was a secluded, lovely little area with his picture of himself in the background and a table. And then you find out a guy walks in, it's actually in an elevator.
Of course.
Which was just, I thought was quite hilarious. They did
That's the
segment
best
that way.
utilization of this guy. That's the way he was even in the indies there. He was kind of like an underdog, kind of a he reminded me a lot like Mikey Whipwreck. How he would get the fan, because he went through a lot, he'd get pummeled. The fans would get behind him, and he would be that guy that just got pummeled
Yeah.
throughout the match,
And then
he'd maybe squeak it out or something.
And then
he
later,
is a former champion in that territory, isn't he?
yeah, I believe he was a champion, singles champion, and all that. Later on, when he started doing more of the heel style, he would have like the robe similar to of a Robert Roode or a Ric Flair kind of feel,
yeah.
and I'm better than you kind of stuff, like an MJF.
It's
kind
good
of
though.
thing
He's
and all
good
that.
at it.
But his segments have been quite hilarious, and it seems that they're gonna try and push this a little bit more because he's been not very lucky in the win-loss category, at least for an AEW wrestler and all that. So
Sure.
hopefully something like this will help lead to them being able to use.
Well, that's
him
what
down the
Dark's
road.
good for.
Yeah.
Giving exposure, building those characters up that
Yeah.
just aren't. They don't have the name.
Right. It's Dark is a good place to show off talent and try to see how you can get people over. I mean, having Devon Dudley's sons on there, maybe if they're on there more often, you'll get a little more experience, a little more, showing what they can do. It's what got you the Acclaimed. It's what got you Chaos Project, Top Flight. Brother team,
Right.
who are very good luchadors. They're going to be getting a chance at next week on Dynamite against the Young Bucks because they showed what they could do. They've got great chemistry, great wrestling ability, high flyers. Dark is a really great place for people to show off what they can do, and if they have really good matches against some of the main roster people, which is how the Acclaimed actually got signed, they had a good match.
And
against
speaking
their
about the
friends.
Acclaimed, I kind of like, they come out to the ring rapping. They kind of have that thing going.
Yeah, Max
If
Caster
you can do
and
it
his
good,
insults.
it seems like they're pretty comfortable doing it.
Yeah.
So I mean, good things are probably in the future for that team.
I'm more of a Anthony Bowen fan than I am of a Max Caster.
Oh, well, okay.
Because we've seen the Max Caster types before.
Well,
and all
hear
that,
you.
And they only last so long.
All right, well, cool. Well, let's get into Dynamite. We got Matt Sydal versus Cage, Brian Cage there, first match.
Oh, yeah.
FTW champion.
Really great match. Another case of the strong, agile guy against the quick high flyer. Not that Cage is not a high flyer. He started off as an actual cruiserweight type guy and all that stuff, who, funny enough, also came from the United Wrestling Network as well.
Before the match started, Taz,
Yeah.
he kind of got on the mic there and addressed Darby Allin, the new face of TNT.
Yeah, he liked to come out and flap his jaws like he always does, and likes to talk about Cody and how they're being ignored and that they finally got on the standings and stuff for the top 5 in the company. And so he told everybody that the match with Cage and Seidel wasn't not something that we're going to overlook Seidel, because he's known Matt Seidel for quite a while. He knows what he's capable, and you tell Brian Cage, don't take him lightly. He's a guy who could beat you, because Seidel had a victory over Chris Jericho in his career, so that's somebody don't take lightly.
And he had a winning record going into this, 5 of his last 6.
Yeah.
So he's the guy though, Matt Bourne, he kind of made the Shooting Star Press kind of, right?
Yeah, he's the one that really sort of popularized,
right, like the WWE level.
Yeah,
like
when he was Evan Bourne in the WWE, I think that's what helped also propel it and all that stuff. But when he came back under his name, Matt Seidel, he still showed it. But he's been doing a lot of submission moves. He has a really interesting Russian leg sweep.
He's beefed up.
Yeah, and he has a nice like Cobra Clutch Russian leg sweep kind of stretch that he's been using lately on some of his opponents. But about this match, it was a very good opening match. You see Matt Seidel and his experience in wrestling. You see the high flying, and then you see Cage with his strength, also his agility, what he can do in the ring. It was a definite back and forth match. I think it was a really good idea having these guys be in an opening match, because that's what you want. You want to gain that interest early on. Mm-hmm. So they go back and forth. But the way this match ended was very interesting, because it's something that you don't usually see. Matt Seidel goes up to the top rope to try and hit, which I'm assuming was going to be a blockbuster neck breaker on Cage, but Cage actually caught him in midair in a suplex position, turned him into the drill claw, and pinned him 1, 2, 3.
He got that drill claw from the X-Men fighting game. I'll bet you anything. Remember Wolverine Drill Claw?
Yeah,
Drill
the
Claw.
name. You got the name.
Well, he
from
came
that.
out with the Wolverine outfit like a few months back in Impact, right? The Weapon X. Didn't he have the Weapon X garb?
Yes. Yeah. He likes to call himself.
All right. So yeah, I mean, Cage over Seidel. Ricky Starks warned Team Taz presence will be felt, and so they come back during this. Taz was out there doing commentary. Next up, you had Cody Rhodes.
Cody Rhodes. He was out there doing his conversation, his shoot and all that, which ended up getting interrupted by a woman named Jade Cargill. Mm-hmm. She was a former college athlete. I believe it was in basketball. She has been training at the Nightmare Factory under QT Marshall, and she'd been, if you watched Dark and Dynamite, sitting out in the crowd with the rest of the wrestlers and all that. Well, she came out to interrupt Cody's little promo that he was shooting, to let him know that if he thinks he's such a giant killer, beating all these big guys, that he still needs to face against a true giant.
Oh, and who is that?
Amazingly, and
it's the Diesel.
Yes, the Shactus, Big Daddy, the original Superman.
I would love it. I would love it if
Shaq.
something gets involved with Barkley too, because you know how they bicker on.
On TNT's basketball. Yeah, that would be great if he came out.
It's just so terrible.
But when Jade did interrupt and get in Cody's face, talking mad smack and giving him smoke, who comes out? But of course, his lovely wife Brandy. And right there, she pretty much laid down the law on Jade, pretty much telling her who does she think she is, coming in, talking to her man, coming on her show, getting in her area, in her ring.
Oh.
And I'm going to see these two. It'd be very interesting seeing these two go at it. But Jade seemed to be not caring what Brandy was talking, gave her a little tap on the butt, being like, yeah, sure, okay, sweetheart. So I definitely see something like that coming up into the future.
And then to make matters worse, we get Team Taz jumping
yes.
Cody.
When that happened, you see Brian Cage and Ricky Starks come in from behind, attack Cody, do the typical thing Team Taz does. But then you start hearing Darby Allin's music. He comes down from his seat, comes into the ring. They all start going at it and back and forth. And then, of course, shortly after all this happens, Big Will Hobbs comes storming in with his chair, smashing on the ground, chases them off.
Getting closer to joining.
It's a possibility. I mean, he still hasn't given them, any information about whether he's going to join or not. Hopefully, I hope he doesn't. I'd like for him to stand on his own. Be
It's
his
too bad
own
they can't
man.
do war games. They can do something like it though, but like a Team Taz versus like the Nightmare Family,
It would be an interesting
like
one.
building to that.
I mean, they never did have that 6-man that was going to be with John Moxley and the Murder Hawk and all that. It'd be nice if maybe they.
well,
fixed it up.
they could be the extras because we kind of got 3-on-3 right now.
Pretty much. I
You
mean,
know?
depending on how it goes. I mean, who knows? I'm sure something will come up. Hopefully, Will Hobbs will give an answer to Taz and Team Taz to let them know and either be for or against.
See how it's leading right now. We know how this plays out. He acts like he's against, but he'll join Team Taz, and then the Nightmare Family will need a fourth.
Right. So it'll go back and forth, and who knows who that'll be.
We'll see. But speaking of Moxley, he did a segment there talking about his match against Kenny Omega.
Right. He talked about how him and Kenny practically 1 year ago faced off against each other, but not in the atypical match.
Mm-hmm.
It was a pretty much anything goes kind of match, and that he knows about Kenny, and they faced each other in many different types of matches, but not the straight up match that everybody thinks.
Right.
And that he knows that Kenny is a capable guy, especially when he gets that mindset in him and all that. And he knows, could Kenny be the guy who beats me? In his mind, it's a possibility. Will he? In Moxley's mind, no, he's not going to be, because he'll fight for that belt, because he says that belt represents everybody, all the fans, all the people who watch, all the people who support, all the people who root for him and all that. But I'd have to agree with Moxley. I mean, if Kenny Omega is on his game, he has given 5, 6, 7-star type matches in New Japan. He is a guy who could be a real threat to John Moxley. I mean, Moxley has faced a lot of hard hitters of late, and a body can only take so much. And if Kenny can have a perfect game plan against Moxley, he could be the guy who ends up beating him. And personally, I think he might be the guy, because what we've seen in the last few weeks against guys like Penta and Sonny Kiss, and even his match against Adam Page, I think Kenny's in the right kind of mindset where he could, and he wants to prove to everybody, I'm not going to be just a name from Japan. I'm going to be a name here.
Yeah, he did say if anybody can beat him twice, it's him. Got that match on December 2nd.
Yep.
So
Should
that's
be-
something to look forward to.
Should be really enjoyable.
All right, so the bunkhouse match. How about this?
Good old-fashioned bunkhouse match.
Yeah, this is harkening back to the, Crockett days. That's for sure. They used to have the bunkhouse stampede. You remember that?
Oh, yeah. Everything that Dusty Rhodes loved doing, facing, people in his jeans, the knee pads, the cowboy boots, and a nice cowbell and bull rope.
And that's what this was. Dustin was involved with QT, and it was against the Butcher and the Blade.
Yeah, with Bunny at ringside. So, I mean, everybody knows the story that it was the Bunny using QT Marshall and his credit cards, making him max out, QT falling for the pretty face just to get screwed over. And so they had all sorts of issues. They came out, and it was a bloodbath.
That's like instant heel for a female gold digger.
Yeah, I mean, come on. That is the ultimate villain. Mm-hmm. So you end up seeing them go after one another, Dustin against the Butcher. You see Blade and QT going at each other and all that. And they didn't hold back. There were tables.
Yeah, nothing
there
but
were
chaos
chairs.
and calamity. Huh?
Yeah.
Slobbering.
They used that. They used the ladder, bashing and beating on each other. The first one who ended up getting bloody, though, I believe, was the Blade. He took a nice big hit from Dustin Rhodes with the ladder, and he had a crimson mask. He was bleeding pretty profusely.
So Dustin, it was Butcher with the Singapore cane.
Yeah, I believe the Butcher was using the Singapore cane on Dustin shortly after that. QT, I believe, might have used a chair at some point. Blade and Bunny set up a table on one side, looking to use it at some point in the match. They did roll and end up outside. They were beating each other with chairs, the wooden fencing, not to mention even the bales of hay were being used. So there was nothing,
Everything but the kitchen sink.
pretty much. I believe at one point they even spilled out into the actual group of ringside viewers, which are a lot of the other wrestlers that you'd see during Dark or even Dynamite sometimes, beating each other, bare fists, or even with the cowbell, I believe was used a couple of times. At one point, they did get inside. They did try and use a couple double team maneuvers to end it with Butcher and Blade on QT Marshall. They also tried using, I believe, one of the tables at one point. Dustin came in, helped broke it up. Then there was a point near the end of it where Bunny was holding up QT for her man Blade to hit him with a chair. Blade comes in, blood in his eyes, goes to try and hit QT. QT pulls away. He almost nails Bunny. They look at each other, hesitant. QT nails him from behind, knocks Bunny right through the table, completely incapacitates her. Blade's distracted, can't think straight because he just saw the Bunny get put through the table, turns around, gets hit with a QT cutter, and that ends up being the end of the match. 1, 2, 3. The Nightmare Family gets the Butcher and the Blade.
Bloody bunkhouse. Maybe like it. All right, let's get on with this. MJF, Wardlow, they're getting inducted.
Yeah, we did see MJF with
set up the podium
with all the inner circle minus. Oddly, Sammy Guevara was not there.
Makes sense.
They had their little speeches. They're thinking of this and that.
I mean, Sammy got beat up pretty good at that pay-per-view. That cinematic match was pretty good.
It was enjoyable. It was fun seeing Gangrel and the Hurricane.
I did like the Gangrel. I hope we see more of him going forward. Probably not, but still.
You never know. I mean, AEW does like to do that.
Too bad Luna isn't with us anymore. They could have come out together, because they were a couple in real life.
Could have brought back the Blackhearts. Who knows?
Why not?
But so they go and they make their speeches about how grateful they are and they know this, that, the typical kind of stuff that you'd hear out of MJF, Chris Jericho, and after that was done out there. There was a segment in the back where he wanted to ingratiate himself with the members who still didn't care for him, like Ortiz and all that, and offered first class ticket to Vegas.
Well, you missed the happy birthday though.
Oh, that's correct. That's
Before
right, because
they did sing happy birthday to
they
Chris.
did sing happy birthday to Chris Jericho because on Tuesday he actually turned 50 years old.
And then that was the Vegas.
And that's where the Vegas trip. Yes, that's where
Boy,
the Vegas
50
trip
years
came
old
from.
and he could still do that match that he had. Boy, Lion Salting, doing all of the old Lionheart stuff.
I know. It's really impressive seeing a guy
I
at
thought that
age
was a good
50 who
match.
could do that stuff. It just
Boy.
proves that man is ageless. He's just a timeless character.
In 10 years, I want to see AJ Styles, Chris Jericho. Probably be phenomenal.
Oh
right?
my goodness.
Phenomenal.
Oh lordy.
Oh boy.
But yes.
But we got the tag champs, Young Bucks. They were interviewed.
Yeah, they were talking about their victory over FTR at the Full Gear and how was the leg and ankle, and they wanted to tell everybody that they were going to be fighting champs and that they were fine, and that the next week.
You mentioned the team earlier.
Yes, next week the Young Bucks agreed to give a shot to a young brother team, also known as Top Flight, that a lot of people have seen over the last couple weeks on Dark. It should be very good. Both of these guys used to wear masks, luchador-wise. One of the brothers used to be Airwolf.
Dun, 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 and Ernie Borgnine came out with him.
That's the funny thing about that.
And he came out to it.
He came out to the actual theme song of it because he wrestled for a short bit in MLW.
Yeah, that was
and
great.
Ray Phoenix was in there, and Ray's last match in MLW was against Airwolf, and Airwolf actually defeated Ray Phoenix by countering his little corkscrew
He did the chopper,
driver and
the
all that
chopper
stuff.
dive.
Yeah. So next week we get the Young Bucks against Top Flight, which I think is going to be a really good match. It'll give Top Flight a real opportunity to show what they can do, and maybe they'll actually get signed to the division, just like how the Acclaim and a few others have come about.
So how about Sean Spears with Tully Blanchard versus Scorpio Sky?
Yeah, this match has been really been going the last couple of weeks. Saying Sean Spears telling Scorpio Sky that you've been stealing my spotlight, you've been stealing my time and all this stuff, calling him thief, wrecking his stuff in the locker room, fighting other members of SCU. It was a really good match. Again, both of these guys have disdain for one another. Scorpio Sky showing his technical ability. Sean Spears tried to end this match early with the C4, Death Valley Driver, and all that. Scorpio Sky managed to evade it. He tried to get him in the TKO. Spears evaded that as well. It was a great back and forth. I see this match, or at least this feud continuing on. But Tully Blanchard had to get his nose into this match. Slipped not just a slug to Spears, but one over to Scorpio Sky to distract him. Spears loaded the glove, hit Sky, pinned him for a 1-2-3. But this is going to be something that's going to go on, I think, a little bit more.
12-3. In his last 15, Scorpio Sky. So
yeah, he has the third most wins in the entire company, just behind John Moxley, I believe, and Cody Rhodes.
Okay, Tay Conti.
Yes.
With Anna Jay of the Dark Order versus Red Velvet.
Yeah, we had our usual one ladies match. It was Red Velvet, who's.
But I like seeing Red Velvet every week. I'm really a fan.
Oh yeah, she showed herself something, and Brandy Rhodes, who came out with her, not in a good mood because she was still steaming over the Jade thing.
But it does look like
tonight.
This is a real deal thing, Brandy and her.
Yeah,
They might be a tag team.
I think they're going to be the new version of the Nightmare Sisters and all that stuff, because she sees Red Velvet as her little brand, action figure, and has taken a real shine and liking to her. And Red Velvet has a lot of talent and ability, being a former dancer. But then she was going against Tay Conti, so a lot of people remember who Tay Conti used to be in NXT. She has a background in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and like you said, she is a friend with Anna Jay because they were tag partners in that YouTube broadcasting of the women's tag tourney.
And she went over in this match.
Yes, she did. Every now and then, Anna Jay tried to get Tay Conti to do a little more cheap shots or a little more heel type things, but Tay Conti doesn't seem like she's up for that kind of stuff. Her own, which is a good thing. And at one point, Anna Jay wanted her to use a chair. She kicked it back and was like, "Not doing it. I'm beating her my way." And she did. She managed to defeat Red Velvet, and I believe it was probably about a 6-7 minute match, if that. Hit her, I believe it was with a knee strike.
Right.
And put her down, got the victory. You could see Anna Jay still would like her to join the Dark Order and do a little more what Anna Jay does, but I think that's going to lead into something else.
And then following this match, we had the backstage segment with the Inner Circle. Sammy Guevara shows up.
Right. Sammy claims he only got one email where everybody else got two.
First to go to the beach.
First to go to a beach and then come here and get the tickets. And Sammy has that great disdain. And you can see how MJF is trying to make Sammy look like the bad guy, the untrusting one and all that. And I can see something happening there where MJF is wedging himself in between Sammy and the Demo God, and Chris Jericho's going to end up choosing MJF. And
he made a smart aleck comment to Sammy. He handed him the ticket, said it was on him.
Yeah. He said the flight and everything was on him to Vegas and all that. And
all right, so Eddie Kingston next. He gets the mic. How about Eddie here? He said that one day he'd be the world champ, despite losing.
He said that he had to deal with the rest of his life knowing that John Moxley made him say "I quit," but he said it wasn't going to deter him into being the heavyweight champ someday. He was going to do that, and that everybody was welcome that he was giving them a second shot of Penta versus his brother Rey Fenix. And a classic that last week was a very great match. No, not last week. A couple weeks ago, I believe it was, during the tournament. And that he was going to go sit at commentary and talk about these two brothers facing each other. And the match did live up to what it was. It definitely was a main event one.
Yeah, that's the main event we're getting into here.
Anybody that knows these two brothers and ever watched an old program that used to be on Lucha Underground knows, because they had faced each other in those
Even
matches.
MLW too.
Even in MLW, yeah.
They had a great match together in that.
They are brothers, but they will definitely go at each other, beat each other down.
Yeah, they seem like more than any other brothers I've ever seen. Even like Brett and Owen, they're so comfortable with each other.
Yeah, they don't have a problem with or
they have
against each other.
such trust with each other doing these moves.
Yes, they do. And it was a great match. I mean, they went at each other. Penta was not as hesitant as he was in the very first time they faced each other. He was more determined to get the win this time. During the match, Tony Schiavone, JR, Excalibur were talking with Eddie, is it wise having these guys face each other again? This could cause animosity between the two, a rift, something in that manner. And he's like, no, we're family. This happened. Brothers fight. He kept using these kind of things. But during the match, you hear Eddie's commentary about him talking about his best friend beating on the little brother and all that stuff. And you could sort of see that Eddie was trying to push maybe his issues and his anger into Penta and putting it down on Phoenix as being the recipient of this anger and all that. Penta did something in Luchador's, thing that is pretty much a no-no, by ripping the mask and trying to expose his face. But later in the match, we see Ray decides, what big brother can do, little brother can do as well, and started ripping on his face as well, tearing on his mask and all that. But Eddie Kingston, is like, oh, he shouldn't be doing that, even though moments earlier when Penta was doing this to his little brother, he was like, oh, there's nothing wrong with that. It's fine. Obviously, you could see, Eddie's pushing more his best friend and wanting to get rid of the little brother to manipulate, Penta a little bit more. But all in all, it was a great match. These guys showed why they're in AEW, why what they did in Impact when they were there was top-notch. Everywhere they go, they always make a good match great. And in the end, Penta, after doing a package pile driver on the apron and then doing a Canadian Destroyer on the floor to his brother, threw him back in, dropped him with another package pile driver, and got the 1-2-3 very easily. Eddie comes to the ringside, talking about his best friend, that's what he needs to do, don't worry about him. And then you see him walk over and start kicking Ray Phoenix out of the ring like, I'm going to get rid of this guy, and I'm going to take my best friend, and I'm going to manipulate him into doing the things that I can't do, because I have so much anger about what happened to me recently, So you're going to probably see Phoenix fighting his brother again, but not for the reasons the last two times.
And that'll be good, It'll just continue like the brother feuds. You're never going to be over with that.
Never
So
has.
the show ends with the reveal of Pac.
Yeah.
Or Pac.
Pac, yes. The bastard Pac.
Right. He says the bastard is back. Charges the ring.
Yes. When Eddie gets done, jabbering, his stuff and all that, you hear the music of Pac, and he comes out ready in fighting gear, wanting to get Eddie. Eddie's got all these officials in between him, antagonizing him. Come on, bring it. And then you find out that Tony Khan had signed a match for next week. You're going to see the bastard Pac go against Blade. And that should be a really good one. And I see Pac being the guy who's going to go through every member.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be
has some catch up to do there.
And I wouldn't be surprised if you end up sort of seeing him being able to get Ray Phoenix over on his side because of how Eddie's seems to be treating him.
Yeah, and then there'll be like a faction versus them or Phoenix and Pac, maybe with a couple other people, huh?
And there could be. I mean, it's a possibility. You never know.
And that'd be a good tag team, though, Phoenix and Pac.
Yeah.
Pac.
Yes, Pac.
Pac. Pac-Man. All right, cool, man. So that was AEW. So just really quick here, WWE. You watched every minute.
No.
I know you did, right?
Oh, yeah.
So on Raw, we got Miz and Morrison out there doing the real Their
Oh,
show.
the highlight reel,
The highlight reel.
or whatever it is.
Yeah, it was the highlight
Men's
reel.
TV or whatever they
With
want to call
Randy
it.
Orton, they kind of interrupted Randy, and
Mm.
then Drew comes out, Randy RKO's him. There we go. He did have a triple threat. It was going to be for the last spot on the Raw side of the Survivor Series team, and that was Riddle going up against Jeff Hardy, going up against Elias.
Okay.
And Riddle won that. There was really quick, I think Nia Jax injured somebody else.
It was Mandy Rose.
She injured Mandy Rose,
Yes.
threw her like out of the ring, but she kind of got tangled up there. Titus O'Neil got buried by Bobby Lashley for no reason whatsoever.
Just because that's what they like to do to Titus.
Just
you know?
for Titus to
He can
have,
be
like,
Father of
an
the
appearance,
Year,
I
but
guess.
he can't be a member of a faction or win a match.
And Nikki approached Alexa and still really didn't get anything out of her. The main event was The New Day and Drew McIntyre versus Randy and Miz and Morrison. And who cares?
Yeah, it really,
It's just kind of like
it was a really meaningless match because you've got a guy who
and
could come
Survivor
for your
Series
belt.
is meaningless because it interrupts all the stories just to like do brand versus brand.
Yeah,
It doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anybody favors. That's why Asuka and Sasha are fighting each other after they've just finished fighting each other. Just because it's a brand versus brand thing. But I mean, Raw is Raw. That's pretty much in a nutshell what that is.
yeah.
Nia injuring people, Titus O'Neil getting some kind of push that is only lasts for 5 minutes.
Right. I sometimes wonder what the creative is thinking when it comes to Raw and all that. I mean, they need to stop doing this, tearing up the script, and then 5 minutes before the show or during the time of the show, let's just on the fly.
Nia Jax Samoa dropped Lana through a table again. So there we go. Like
For the
7th
third,
week in a row.
for yeah.
All right, but NXT there was a surprise. Leon Ruff, new
Who?
Leon Rush. That's what I thought it was at first. Leon Rush is another Leon.
You go, who is this?
But,
Leon Ruff?
He beat Johnny because of the interference with Damian Priest, and he's the North American champion.
Oh wow!
But the funniest thing about
to give that belt prestige.
But this was funny though because Johnny did joining Pump Boy with Pete Dunne now.
Oh
It's
yes,
the 4 of them.
I always liked Birch and Oni Lorcan.
But
I
Pete
always
Dunne
think
did get a lot more jacked up on his off time. But they pointed it out. But boy, yeah, and I like the way he's like the quiet enforcer with them.
that's not a bad
and
thing.
they pointed out. They did point out. I think this was last week how like he joined because pretty much it's Roderick Strong. He's got a problem. Roderick's the one that put him out.
Yeah. I mean, they were tag team partners in the Dusty Rhodes tournament at one point. Back in the day.
Pat McAfee. There we go.
Oh yes, Pat
Yeah.
McAfee, former football player, and all that. I don't know why he's even in the storyline and all that, but I mean that Lorcan and Birch sort of turned heel and all that stuff. If that's what it took for them to actually get looked at and actually used and all that stuff, good for them because I always thought that they gave really good matches and all that stuff, but were never really given the opportunity or time to actually be something. And if it takes Pat McAfee to get them over and all that and for them to be bad guys, then so be it. At least they're
Yes,
getting-
it takes Pat McAfee. It can only take Pat McAfee. And thank God.
That's what makes it sad.
But thank God it's these 3 and it's not Gronk. Can you just imagine if Gronk would have continued with that Gronk and McAfee?
I love Gronk because he was a UA guy.
Oh, I
and
don't
all
like
that,
Gronk
but-
because I like the Jets.
Well, I know because he was a Patriot guy and all that. But
But no, he was with the U of A.
He was a
yeah,
U of A
he's
guy,
kind of,
so,
people like him here.
I'm
yeah.
fine.
Yeah, he's like Teddy Bruschi.
right.
We all like Teddy too.
Nick Foles,
Nick Foles. Yeah,
All-
Nick Foles
all-
and Teddy, right.
all great Super Bowl guys.
Right.
But were there any other kind of matches on
yeah,
NXT?
Dexter Loomis and Timothy Thatcher. Timothy Thatcher's been coming out kind of punking out so-called students. And the students, I think last week, one of the students retaliated.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Stood
it
up
was-
for themselves.
Yeah, I forgot which one it was. But, I mean, nothing major. That was really the two big points.
Really?
Of the
Okay.
show, yeah.
Because I figured with Dexter Loomis,
I
they
mean,
were giving a big push.
Cameron Grimes was going around, talking about, Dexter Loomis and how he beat him.
No.
But
Really?
yeah, other than that, that's pretty much what it was.
Oh, well, I
SmackDown's tonight.
Is it okay? Any good matches that you know of, or you just...
No.
It's okay, no problem.
Otis versus everybody, and he beats them all.
Okay. Then
he's the champion.
Then he goes.
Spoiler.
Then he goes and has
Otis
some
is
steaks.
the Universal Champion.
He's gonna go have some steaks.
That's
They don't defend the 24/7 belt on that
steaks
show,
and
do they?
weights, steaks and weights. All right, man. So wrapping it all up, the Impact event tomorrow on Impact Plus. You guys don't forget about that. Support Impact. Support these lower tiered companies.
Yes.
MLW
Impact,
coming back.
Yeah, MLW. First things first. Starting yesterday, I believe the Impact Plus was getting an improve on their whole system and all that stuff. So hopefully it'll be up and ready to go. I believe there's a little slowdown right now, but it should hopefully be set for Turning Point, so you won't have any problems. So Impact Plus is going to have a whole little revamped section to it and all that. He was talking about MLW. I mentioned, I think a week or two ago, MLW is going to be coming back with Fusion, and Davey Boy Smith probably fighting Jacob Fatu for the heavyweight belt. They can be seen on the YouTube and BN Sports. They now just stated just today that they're going to be also available on Pluto TV that you can download onto your computer or your apps for your phone and stuff like that, so you won't have to worry about it missing it. So that'll be something extra viewing wise.
And Lucha Underground's coming back.
Oh,
wouldn't that be great?
God, if only. That would be magnificent.
Robert Rodriguez and RZA, get up some more money. And then that show back.
And then the last little thing.
I'm having Marty the Moth hankerings.
I wouldn't mind seeing him.
For my Moth.
I wouldn't mind seeing him in one of the companies. That would be a good one. But the last thing was that WWE ladies wrestler Sasha Banks made a debut on The Mandalorian as an actual Mandalorian. So something to watch out for if she is a returning character.
The new episode that just debuted today.
Yes. So good luck to her on that.
Yeah, definitely. All right, that's gonna be it for us. We got Cecil.
Thank you.
And I'm Jason. And watch us next week and every week at this time, 7 p.m. Mountain, for Wrestling Figure Forum.
Remember to leave a comment, hit that subscribe and the notification.
Hey, this is Jeff. Also just want to invite everybody to stick around at 8:30 Arizona time, roughly 10:30 Eastern time. Jason and Waylon and I believe Cecil will be sticking around for game night. And tonight they are debuting The Princess Bride. You can also go to the Bandwagon Fans channel and see me and Jason reviewing that episode of Mandalorian that Cecil just talked about. So Jason's just being silly there. They can still see you, Jason. All right. So anyways, so go ahead and we're going to take a little break, but we'll be back in about 25 minutes. So go ahead and come back for game night, and then check out that episode of the Mandalorian review, and come back and check us out every Friday night at this time.